So today we take our first venture into multiplying and dividing fractions. We've been adding and subtracting a couple days. Adding and subtracting, you have to have a common denominator. You do not need a common denominator for anything multiply or divide. So the deal for multiplying fractions is you just multiply straight across. I give you two fractions side by side. You just multiply the top by the other top to make a new top. You take the bottom times the bottom, you make yourself a new bottom, and that's all there is to it. Just multiply straight across. Some of the homework, I think they'll squeak in the word of. I hope you remember the word of still from early in the year, plus other days. Of means to multiply. So if they say of, make it multiply. If they say multiply, you can make it up. It doesn't really matter. We're just going to look to go straight across. 2 times 3 makes 6. 5 times 5 makes 25. That's it. We do not, again, worry about common denominators. The bottoms and tops are generally going to change as you multiply. The only way things don't change, here we multiply by 1. Multiply by 1 just stays the same. It's probably something you've learned over the years. But generally speaking, as you multiply across, the numbers change. Dividing has a different thing happen. Dividing, you have to flip the second fraction. So if you're given a divide problem, you copy the first one, you change divide into multiply, and the second fraction goes upside down. Some schools, some books will say copy, change, flip, meaning you copy the first one, change divide to multiply, flip the second fraction. I don't say that. I mean, it's true, but I'm just not into that. But as long as you make sure you flip the second fraction, you should be good. Now that it's a multiply, just go straight across. And we're going to get 15 on the top, 16 on the bottom. If you haven't been, pause the video, try the next one. And then I'll be back with you. So if we want to divide these, keep the 5/7. Divide becomes multiply. We go upside down with the second fraction and multiply across. 5 times 9 is 45. On the bottom, multiply, 7 times 8 is 56. So again, in summary so far, basic multiplying, just go straight across. Dividing, you have to flip the second one, then go straight across. You never change the first one, flip the second one. Flipping a fraction has a name that you might remember. If you were here in person, I would tease it out of you. Sometimes we even play hangman, but it's hard to play hangman with an empty room. The word of the day for flipping is the word reciprocal. Reciprocal just means that you're going to flip a fraction upside down. So I think there's a little bit of homework problems that's going to ask you some questions. What's the reciprocal of this? What's the reciprocal of that? It just means to flip it upside down. So if I asked you for the reciprocal of 2/5, you'd come back with 5/2. If I asked for the reciprocal of 8/9, you'd come back with 9/8. These are called, to preview a word that's coming in a day or two, these are called improper fractions when the top is bigger. Those could be changed to other things, but you don't have to do that. All you have to do today, if they ask you for a reciprocal, is just flip it upside down. So, pause me and try these 4. Reciprocals for 2/3, 7/8, 1/5, and 5. Just try them out, unpause me, come back. The reciprocal of 2/3, one piece of broken chalk. Reciprocal of 2/3 over here would be 3/2. Reciprocal of 7/8 is 8/7. Reciprocal of 1/5, I'd be okay with 5/1, but there's a better answer than that. The best answer instead of 5/1 would just be 5. Anytime a fraction's over 1, it's better to just make that a whole number. I wouldn't say 5/1 is wrong, but I'd say 5 is better. The reciprocal of 5 is therefore 1/5. Try to logic that out one of two ways. If flipping a fifth gets us 5, flipping 5 should just take you right back to 1/5, if that makes sense. Another way you can think about this, back to this conversation. If a fraction's over 1, that becomes a whole number. So any whole number can be expressed as a fraction over 1, that's still the same value. And then when you flip it upside down, it becomes a 1/5. So if I wanted the reciprocal of 1/6, try that out, possibly if you need time, that would come back as just normal 6. So if I asked you for the reciprocal of normal 6, pause if you need some think time, it would come back as 1/6. There's a relationship here too. If you were in the room, I'd probably tease it out of you through conversation, but in the absence of an audience, I'll just tell you. There's a relationship between these two answers. There's something that if you do it, the result will always turn out the same, which is, if you multiply these numbers, you multiply a number with its reciprocal, the answer will always turn out to be the exact same answer. If you don't see it coming, pause, think about it, check back in with me. Okay, the answer to all of these multiplications is 1. If you came straight across, you get 6/6. That's the type of fraction we learned about yesterday. That's the same as 1 when the top and bottom are the same. 7/8 times 8/7 would make 56/56. That's 1. 5/5 when you multiply across would be 1. I think the homework will occasionally ask you questions like this by saying, like, 2/7 times the mystery box is going to make what? The mystery box just has to hold the reciprocal. Any fraction times its reciprocal makes 1. And again, reciprocal is a fancy word. It just means flip it upside down. So they say 3/8 times mystery box makes 1. The only fractions that multiply and can ever make 1 happen is if they're reciprocals. So if they shoot you a 3/8, you shoot them back an 8/3. Any fraction times its reciprocal will always equal 1 in the end. We're working a couple different pages from this. The first little bit, not much, but a little bit on 60. No, that's the wrong paper. Okay, we're on 59. The first little bit is going to be 59. Just work the letters on 59. That's going to go from A to J. So A to J on 59. That's going to be based on multiplying and dividing. That's like the first column of what we did. Multiply it straight across. Dividing, you flip the second. Then we're going to spend more time on 61. 61, we're going to do the letters A through G. And then we're going to do the normal old 1 to 25. I'll tell you, almost everybody will have a wrong answer for number 5. Feel free to ask your parents. You'll still almost all have a wrong answer to number 5. Okay, if history holds, number 5 will largely be a strikeout question. A couple people might get it, but number 5 is a tricky one that involves a little bit of knowledge that not everybody even knows, or if they know, they don't maybe think about it when they try to do number 5. But think about 5, be careful on 5, but realize 5 is a tricky one. If you don't get it, it's not the end of the world. But we'll talk about number 5 when we're back in person. We'll have people saying all sorts of things about number 5, but mostly number 5 doesn't come back at a high accuracy level, historically speaking, in the 7th grade world. But again, 59, just letters. 61, just do everything. Number 5 involves a trick. And if you have any questions, send me a message. We'll Zoom later.